I'm Davina Rodriguez, and welcome back to ALC Crimes in America. Today's focus is on school shootings. Is this really a form of terrorism? Here today, I have college student and researcher Aaliyah Akala here to get more into depth on what the knowledge we have of school shooting is and why it should be considered a form of terrorism. Welcome to the show. So, Aaliyah, what made you look more into school shootings? Well, to me, this topic seemed interesting. Lots of people believe that school shootings are just another form of murder. I come to look at the reasons for why this happens, especially all over the world. Interesting. So the world believes that terrorism, according to the FBI's information they put out, is an unlawful use of force or violence against a person or property to intimidate or coerce a government or civilian population in furtherance of political or social objectives. What are your thoughts? Well, personally, it's very difficult to define terrorism, especially when there are different forms of terrorism. One of the most common myths about terrorism is that it only happens due to religious and political reasons. If we were to look at the definition of Aurora University's class course, CRJ 3350, Terrorism and Counterterrorism, which is instructed by Professor Hay Darden, domestic terrorism is a homegrown individual or group that threatens or commits an act towards a government or people to induce fear or prove a specific point. Domestic terrorism happens within one country, meaning that there are threats or acts just happening in that country alone. What would your focus of the definition of terrorism be? I would say it would be with knowing that terrorism can be a form of violence or just a threat to an individual or group, or that it is not only because of political or religious reasons. All right, now tell us, what do school shootings have to do with terrorism? I mean, I think most of us just think it's just another murder happening in our country. Well, at first, I thought this too. I mean, personally, I would hear about it every now and then, but I didn't think too much about it. It wasn't until recently I've heard of lone wolf terrorism. I feel like this helps us get a better understanding on why school shootings fall into this category. Lone wolf terrorism. I don't think I've ever heard of this. Can you go more into detail about this lone wolf terrorism? Of course. Lone wolf terrorism, according to the class of CRJ 3350, are unpredictable individuals who are not burdened by any group and are free to think of any type of scenario they want, then to act upon it since they are accountable only to themselves. And by unpredictable, you mean? I would mean unpredictable. Since lone wolf terrorists work alone, you never know what they're going to do. It's almost impossible to keep track of every single move a lone wolf terrorist does. There is not a given look or attitude or anything else we can physically see and automatically know that that's going to be a terrorist. Gotcha. What do you think are some ways that can intrigue a young individual's mind to want to commit these acts? The biggest thing right now is technology. This is the way that everyone gets what they want to know. According to Inside Terrorism by Bruce Hoffman, without communication, there is no terrorism. Almost all communication is done through electronic media, including dramatic video footage, digital photos, and audio clips. The little devices we have in our hands every day to communicate with one another are really the weapon of this situation. Do you think that media has made a really big impact on school shootings? 100%. According to an article written by Amy Flowers Umble, teen tweets their Angus, Snapchat their moods, and Instagram their activities. Young adolescents use these media platforms to say hateful things to one another and hide how they feel behind a screen. And do you think the news media helps give out the message about what's going on with school shootings? Not as much as I believe they should. According to an article written by J.R. Sylvia, the public relies heavily on the news media forms about terrorism. The accessibility of the media has altered how most Americans learn about the world. The problem with news media is that with terrorism being a significant social problem, it is very concerning to know that some events are ignored while others are prominently displayed as significant events, such as 9/11. What do you think that us as older adults can do to help prevent this from happening in our country? Unfortunately, I don't see an exact answer for this. One thing I would say for sure is by having a more complex security system. According to an article written by Ambroski Sasha, hiring school resource officers and expanding tech surveillance can not only help staff and students feel protected, but give some relief to parents at home who are worried about sending their child to school. Fascinating. Thank you so much for taking time to help us get a better understanding on why school shootings are a form of terrorism. Until next time, I'm Davine Rodriguez, and this is ALC Crimes in America. Calypso Productions!